you're on.
This first switch that we have right here is our main switch. We're going to want to leave this main switch in the on position, primarily just to leave the refrigerator on. So I'm going to go ahead and turn those ceiling lights on. It's going to be this furthest left switch. It says ceiling, just so I have a little bit more light in here. So this first switch, once again, the main switch. If you want any of these items to the left to work, you're going to need this main switch in the on position. If you're not using the vehicle, just like anything else, keep everything off. But if you're using the van, if you're driving down the road, even if you don't need any lights back here, leave this on if you have food in your refrigerator, just so it keeps it running. Your refrigerator is 12 volt, it's very low on draw. It's okay to keep it on if you're using the van. This next switch over here is to turn your water pump on. You'll hear the pressure build up for about 2 to 3 seconds. If for whatever reason, if you continually hear the pump just continue to run, you probably left your fill valve in the open position. Just reach underneath the gaucho and close that fill valve. This next switch over right here is your small LED light right by your 30 amp hookup, right by your campsite hookup. This switch right here is your porch light over here on the passenger side of the vehicle. And this final switch right here is for all of your ceiling lights. These switches right here, we put LED lights on them because you primarily don't have them on when you're sleeping. This one you typically leave on when you're sleeping, so we don't have an LED light on it just so it doesn't upset you while you're trying to sleep. This right here is going to be your battery monitor. What I tend to do, just so it can light up so I can see it a little bit better, is I press in on this large knob. Now everything lights up right here. It's saying that we're charging right now, that we have a full charge, that we're at 12.9 volts. That's a great charge. It's a fully charged battery. These other lights that we see over here, this first one is just showing that we have power to the system. The second one, if we are running too many items, it would light up red and it would say overload or fault right up here. That's saying we're just overloading the inverter. We have too many high draw items running. Keep in mind, when you're plugged in like we are to a campsite, you don't have to worry about that. You can run as many items as you need to. It's when we're off the grid camping or driving down the road is when we have to really take in consideration of how much battery we're using. This next one down is just showing that we are charging. This final button right here is inverter. This is a very detailed system, but we keep it simple today. But this inverter button right here, these two will correlate with one another, is something you will be using often if you're not plugged into a power source. So if you are not plugged into a power source and you want to use, let's say, the microwave, we would press this inverter button right here. This would light up. It would say inverting right here, and we would now be able to use our microwave as long as we had our microwave breaker turned on, which we'll see in just a second. Once again, keep in mind, you do not need this inverter button on if you are plugged into a campsite hookup or if you're using your generator. Only need it when we don't have those two big power sources. We don't recommend running the rooftop AC unit on just the inverter for no longer than maybe 15 to 20 minutes. And that's just to ensure that your batteries don't become too drained. We just really want to make sure the life of the battery stays intact. This final guy that we have right up here is your generator. You'll see right down here, you'll have stop and prime. You can hold this down to prime the generator, help it start. This right here will keep the hours on the generator, so you can maintain your records. Of course, there's manuals for all of these items. If we hold this prime button down, I'm just going to hold it till that it lights up for me right there. I'm going to hold down the start button just right here. Your stop button here. You can just hold the stop button down right there. Of course, since we are plugged in right now to a power source, there's no need for the generator, but driving down the road we need AC. Of course, we want this on.
Yep. And I remember him saying you want to get that started and let that run for how long before you attempt to turn the AC on?
That's a good question. I'd recommend running it for anywhere from probably, we'll say at least at minimal, we'll say 3 to 10 minutes based on where you're at, your environment, how quick you actually need to run the items, what kind of scenario is it. But ideally, if you could let it run for a pretty good amount of time, we'll say at least 5 minutes, that would be ideal.
And then turn the
just
AC
to let it warm
on.
up and then turn whatever you need on. We'll
Got
say
it.
the AC, the coffee pots of the world.
Okay.
The only other electrical item you have, the big one, is going to be right here at your breaker box. So over here on this left-hand side is going to be all of your 110 breakers. Over here on the right-hand side is all of your 12-volt fuses. So if we start on, we'll say the simple side on your fuses, which also relate to your 12-volt switches. If your passenger side lights aren't working, for some example, like this light right here is not working, you for some whatever reason probably just blew this little 15 fuse and you just need to replace it. We can give you some. We'll have some waiting for you. We'll put some in your glove box before you leave here just so you have some replacements. The big ones is going to be over here, your 110 breakers. Just like on your 12-volt switches, you have a main breaker. For any of these items to work, this main breaker has to be in the on position. If we rotate it over to the right, we're now in the on position. The next one down you have is your AC. So if we need to run your rooftop AC unit, we would just flip this over. This next one down, your GF5 15 amp, that is for any of your home outlets, any of your 110 outlets, including the one outside. So if you need to use any of those outlets, just make sure we hit that over. The following one is going to be for your microwave. Don't worry that it says refrigerator. They come pre-labeled. It is strictly just for your microwave. You do not need this on to keep your refrigerator on. The very last one right here, this 20, is for your your hot water heater. Hot water heater is located right here underneath your sink. If we're plugged into a connection like we are now, I hit this breaker over in the on position. We've got hot water anywhere from between, we'll say here in Texas, probably about 4 to 8. You're up in the colder climates, about maybe 8 to 12 minutes. That 2.5 gallon reservoir will be warm.
And that's how you turn the hot water heater on.
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
your on and off switch for these things, basically.
That is a true statement. This
Okay.
is your on and off switch for all of these items right
Okay.
here. So if we're plugged in like we are right now, or we have the generator on, all we need to do is hit main and then choose whichever item that we need on, and now we have power to that item. But if we're off the grid camping, or for some reason we just don't want to run the generator and we want to run, let's say, the microwave off strictly the inverter, we would hit that inverter button switch we just saw a little bit ago. Then we would walk over here. We would hit your main switch on. We would come down to your microwave, and now your microwave would have power from just your inverter and your battery system. So it is possible, but since you have the luxury of having a nice generator built in,
Yeah.
probably won't be as a common scenario. Like I'm going to do right now, I always highly recommend, if you're not using any of the items, keep them in the off position. But if you can, if you make it a habit, is to always start from the bottom. So turn everything off from the bottom, like when you're about to leave, just to make sure when you turn that 30 amp back on, you don't accidentally turn every single thing on at one time and overload the system. So that's really the main thing
So
you have to worry about.
bottom
right here.
up and top down.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. And it's just one of those, we'll say, kind of those habits. If you can get into it, it'll just tend to help you out in the future. And that's really the main thing that you have on, we'll say, these particular panels that we have to work with right here. This will just pop in just like that.